Bird of imagination has a desire to fly as high as it can, if it's to give us the greatest of all ideas. But the question is that have we, the human beings of this modern age, pinioned the wings? Because whenever we are to refer to a great idea, we refer to the philosophers and thinkers of yesteryears. We still live in the wonderland that they left behind them. Why? Have we gone bankrupt of all ideas? Is it the death of imagination? We'll talk about this topic with Professor Manoranjan Mohante, illustrious name, an eminent educationist from the University of Delhi. We are lucky enough to have him here. Professor Mohante, I welcome you in this program. I begin my question, simple question. In fact, this is the be-all and end-all. That have we really gone bankrupt of all ideas and imaginations because the modern day culture does not let us think?
You have put it very well. I'm glad.
Thank you.
You know, the bird flies. It's like the mind, human mind flies, and the definition of the human being is not complete without imagination. That is the mental function, and mind and the body together constitute the human being. Now, I wouldn't say that we are totally devoid of imagination today. Civilization will not even continue without imagination. But there are very serious trends, very strong winds in our lifetime, in the present era, where the technological society has overtaken the human effort, and people are discouraged to imagine, or imagine only in particular ways. Our mental processes are geared towards what the present technology demands of us. Therefore, yes, there is a crisis. There is a crisis because our capacity to imagination is not encouraged. Our capacity to imagination is being replaced.
Flex the muscles of our imagination as far as we could have.
True, or instead of imagination, we are being called upon to do what are called practical things, for day-to-day jobs, and those jobs are decided by the large mechanical processes.
Sir, if we take that optimistic view of this proposition, so shall we conclude this way, that this is the time to act, time to think has gone past, this is the time to do now?
No, this acting and doing, thinking and practice, they are not two different things. You see, the unity of that is very much there, and that is why when we see that today in a university system, arts, humanities, social sciences, they are discouraged. Among the humanities, philosophy is discouraged and commerce is encouraged. Management sciences are encouraged, business studies are encouraged, philosophy, literature, all these creative disciplines, they are discouraged. This is a very dangerous trend. This shows that in the name of management or action, governance, we are being told to emphasize only on certain very technical and mechanical aspects of life and society, and we are not evolving, we are not developing our capacity to think, to imagine, to speculate, to reflect, to creatively produce things, to write poetry, to produce creative literature. Yes, there is a crisis.
So, to understand the complexity of life, we still refer to Sophocles' Oedipus Rex, and we still quote Shakespeare and Cervantes, great minds, great men like them. And in art, we still refer to Pablo Picasso and Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci. So, my question is that what is the importance of classical literature in this age of technocracy when we are being ruled by machines from all sides?
Yes, there is great role of classical literature, classical art, classical music, and I wouldn't say they are not continuing, but they have a subsidiary role in our life today, and technocracy has taken over, and the whole cultural trend of standardization of culture through machines, through the computer, through centrally managed information system. That is posing a great challenge to classical arts and classical literature. And all societies had this. I was in Africa recently, and we have been told by colonial masters that Asia, Africa, Latin America, they did not have civilization. Civilization was in the European continent. Now this is wrong. I could see in the Lagos National Museum of Nigeria the art, the Yoruba art, the fantastic Igbo and various art of thousands of years. Now therefore, and of course we know our art, Indian art of 1,000 years,
Yes,
2,000
ancient
years,
days.
ancient days, from Harappa Mohenjo-daro days, Indian art is known. What I want to stress is that today, because of a de-emphasis on humanities, arts, and philosophy, the best minds are attracted towards commerce, management, and technology. The government spends more money on IITs and IIMs. Your cutoff point at the time of admission to the university is very high for medicine, technology, then commerce, business, economics, and last of all it will be philosophy and Hindi, Urdu, Oriya,
So is this the reason? Is this the reason? In fact, the only reason that we produce more technocrats, we produce more good bureaucrats, and maybe good scientists also, but not good thinkers and philosophers?
I think there is a very clear lapse on our policy making. I think post-independence India has been so preoccupied with technology, and now even more so under globalization, technology and management, that we have undervalued philosophy, even though we had a precedent as a philosopher, and we had Rabindranath Tagore in the 20th century, and we had great thinkers, Iqbal and others. So I would like to say that today this imbalance and the overemphasis on technology is going to have very serious effects for our civilization. We will have in the next generation less thinkers, less philosophers, less writers. There may be writers, but not good quality writers. You may not have another Ghalib, another Tagore, another Iqbal in the near future. Now, this is a dangerous trend.
Sir, one more question, in fact, that comes of your statement that you have made, that yes, it is a crisis. The question is that, is it only that atavistic desire to preserve past that we are driven to everything what has been said? Otherwise, many new things, many more creative, innovative things have been said and written in this present age also. But they get ignored only because they have been said now, and it doesn't interest us, obsess us, fascinate us.
No, I think it's very important to have a methodology to look at history and the past. I think it is oversimplified if we only romanticize the past. See, past had great civilizational achievements, but also many oppressive elements.
Yes.
I mean, we had slavery in the past. We still have a caste system which is most debilitating for the untouchables, Dalits, and so on. And women, particularly, were very oppressed. Therefore, past has to be also scrutinized. So there are great writings of the past, great cultures of the past. There are also very
not so great,
very great evils. I would say
yeah.
also of the past. So we have to have a discriminating evaluation to find out what was good and what was bad in our past. That's number one. Number two, we have to have a solid way of integrating the past with the present. And our area with the rest of the world. We can't say that we had all the civilization. This was the mistake of Europe. Europe at one time thought that it was the only civilization and the rest of the world was not civilized. That was very wrong. All areas of the world have had civilization. Great things and evils also. But all parts of the world, all people have had civilization. So we have to find out what we inherit from the world as a whole, not just the West, from the whole world. We often don't realize the great civilizational legacies of Africa, Latin America, other parts of Asia. So that we have to integrate with Europe as well as integrate all that with our own tradition. So both the things we have to do. Look at the past, find out the good and the bad. Look at the whole world and look at our past and combine the world with our own heritage.
And then carry on. Carry on. Well, of course, that was quite a beautiful description of mixing up past with the present. Sir, a utopia that you've been talking about, an artist or a writer builds around himself with a complete freedom, with a complete liberty of thought. So don't you think that at the same time it takes an artist, he or she, let's not be so gender specific in this case, so it takes him or her away from the hustle and bustle and the practical realities of life?
Now you need both and the capacity to do both, capacity to do something very practical and capacity to think ahead, because utopias may look utopian and irrelevant today, but may very relevant. They may be very relevant, very practical, very useful 50 years from now. Now scientists do this also, not only philosophers. Galileo was not accepted for so many years.
So,
you see, he was actually jailed.
For floating something different that people at that time did not accept.
Exactly. That, when he said that the Earth actually revolved around the sun, that was heresy. People thought that was wrong. The sun revolved around the Earth until
or the
then.
Gravitational pull that he...
or the gravitational pull that he talked about. Now, therefore, it is very important to allow all thinking human beings the right to do both. Right to do something very practical, immediate, and also very long-term and utopian. So that is what imagination is all about. Right to imagination adds something beautiful and aesthetic to something very practical and here and now. But it also adds a apparently irrelevant immediate thing, but very exciting future to the same reality. Therefore, utopia and immediate both have to be encouraged simultaneously.
Well, sir, scientists contribute materially, and man of this modern age needs more material. Artists and philosophers, they live in their own cloud cuckoo land which they build around themselves, and their contributions are all ideal. So, if you talk about the present world and the system that we are placed in, what is more important? Yes, of course, you're talking of that homogeneous mix, of that wonderful mix that both are to be carried together. But what does a modern man need now?
A modern man or woman needs both the scientist as well as the artist, because there is no separation. Actually, there is no dichotomy between the material and the aesthetic, material or the ethical. Because suppose a scientist devises a law of light, the technologist devises the bulb, then the artist finds out the kind of the color of the light, the bulb, what shape, what shade, where should it be located. Therefore, every specific thing involves the scientist, the technologist, the artist, and the manager who brings all of them together. Therefore, this dichotomy between scientist and artist, between thinking and doing, between the material and the spiritual, I think this dichotomy has to be questioned.
Sir, don't you think that technology in a way on the global scale has been imperialized? It has been used to subjugate the weaker sections or weaker peoples or races of the world?
Very much. This is why we must bring in politics. Politics is about power relations for freedom, and therefore we should find out technology creates what kind of power relations. If it creates a fascist state, a centralized state, an authoritarian state, then that technology has to be challenged. We have to have a political assessment of that technology and harness technology for freedom. So technology has to be harnessed or integrated with pursuit of freedom. That is why the modern globalized technology, which has created a centralized empire of technology, has to be questioned, because our goal is freedom for all.
Freedom for all who have taken birth in this world.
Exactly.
And the freedom to think and freedom to write whatever they try to or they intend to write. Professor Mohante, it was really stimulating to hear you on different questions like globalization, like education, or the importance of freedom and liberation from all such kinds of chains and shackles that we are caught up in, trapped in. I thank you very much for being with me for this time and having this discussion, this discourse with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So we had Professor Mohante on the power of imagination and on the importance of classical literature in an age where we are trapped up by machines and by gadgets all the way through. With these words, we take your leave. Thank you very much.